Turtle WoW is changing their Paladin design fundamentally for their upcoming patch 1.17.2 Tower of Karazhan. In today's video, we'll look into the depths of what went wrong with the design and why it's getting changed. But before we start this video, my name is Verdict, ladies and gents, and welcome to my second YouTube channel dedicated to my WoW journeys. I've been a Paladin player for the better part of 15 years, and on Turtle, I've been a full best-in-slot protection Paladin, or in other words, for this video in particular, I'm very well equipped, full pun intended, to talk to you guys about this. As always, we're working towards our 1000 subscribers goal as soon as possible, so make sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss any new Turtle WoW content. Let's get on with the video. No matter which platform, no matter which age, the Paladin is known in Classic for their proc design combat. All that the Paladin does is to use their very simple kit to trigger a chain of procs to furthermore empower themselves. Auto attacks, proccing seals, seals proccing artifacts, which also proc seals, and all of these trigger the rest of the Paladin's passives. In the healer section, Holy, on the other hand, would instead be the infinite mana healer spamming one or two abilities, but both the melee and the healer side emphasized upon critical strikes. Think of Paladins as a crit machine. And of course, not to forget the raid-wide utility which the Paladins bring forth for everybody. On Turtle WoW, this was no exception. In fact, it was enhanced to the extreme. The Paladin got the original Crusader Strike spammable ability and Holy Strike to help them scale up their damage, which unfortunately, with time passing on and the different changes being brought forward, broke the Paladin's kit and it deteriorated towards using just two abilities. The issue here was that the Paladin wanted procs above everything else, Wind Fury in particular, which was triggered by Crusader Strikes, all seals and auto attacks as well, including the fact that Wind Fury itself also procced the seals and these effects. It was pretty much a little bit of a exponential growth type of a moment. This created a big issue in the endgame, as the scaling of half of the kit was not that good enough to carry itself onward. The Red Paladin would forget about consecrations, judgments, and would spam Holy Strike while using Crusader Strike in a smart way to optimize Wind Fury farming in particular. The Protection Paladin would see the same thing, especially if you have Thunder Fury like I do, to not be chased down on thread by the rest of the raid. The playstyle of the melee Paladin deteriorated into a gimmick, and I will need to explain a little bit more down the line in depth. The Holy Paladin did not see much of a change either, just to give them a proper mention. They simply spammed flashes and the occasional prepped up Holy Light cancel with the Panic Holy Shock if that was warranted. And let's get into the gimmicks in particular, and I'm talking about the elemental weapon damage. What if I told you that the highest form of threat for the Protection Paladin came through the use of the elemental weapon attacks? Fairy Plate Gauntlets with the Gilnea's Dungeon Ring would be the items which I myself use till this day all the time, unless I am in Extremis and I need to be tankier. The mana return generates threat on Turtle WoW. Roughly 90% of the mana generated from the Judgment of Wisdom would transfer into the target as threat, which made yet another conflict in the Protection Paladin's kit. Would sacrifice two entire pieces of our gear for the gimmicky items which without, well, we could not perform optimally for our style. While the Red Paladin also uses these in the early game, their playstyle changes dramatically in AQ40, causing them to drop these items unless it's a very lengthy fight and they would really like to have some mana. Spelldens also did see the light of day, but they fell off in the competitive guilds for some reason. Not that they didn't have damage, they had very good damage, but it was more of a question of why bring forth a Paladin and dedicate important caster pieces to them when you could simply have a caster to use those pieces optimally. And I know Paladins will argue this point with me, but it is what it is and everybody knows this to be true. Protection Paladins in particular, however, we were forced to use them because of different factors, like the 5% damage reduction Libram. If you use Consecration, then use the max rank, which warranted mana desirability. Because of the Holy Shield, which we also had to use, the Judgment of Righteousness, which was a good instant threat hit, it simply caused us to want mana because of threat. We spent mana, we returned mana, which is amazing threat, but we sacrificed tankiness for it, not to mention that the Paladin is already the squishiest tank of the trio. So now we are in a situation where we are not even a class without Wind Fury weapon, and there is no reason to bring a Paladin to the raid if they cannot have one. So this is the entire story so far of what the Paladin's issue on Turtle WoW are. So once the dust settles and we see the final results of the Class 2.0 changes, which will go into a balance session for a few weeks after release, I'll bring forth an update to this video, talk about similar things such as what's wrong and with these current builds, what can be improved upon, what should get changed, etc. And pretty much I will use this platform to voice myself over to the devs, and hopefully they heed my words. So you might not want to miss any of this. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit more informative one, and into the next one we'll talk about the changes and we'll have actually live gameplay testing. See you in the next one, guys.